So far, we have discussed about some of the key features of Knockout and how it's work and yeah, how what is its history and all. And of course, it is a very compact, flexible, and powerful JS library to build a rich user interface with underlying data model. And this is Regin, and this is Nitin. Today, we are going to demonstrate how to build a sample application using Knockout.js. Before moving that, we have to familiar with some of the keywords and functions normally used by Knockout.js. And first thing is the data bind directive. It's basically used to bind or link data to user interface. So, and other the function is apply binding. It is used to activate the basic binding, knockout binding. So let's see how it's worked with the real time scenario.
So, so welcome you all. I think some of know the knockout. For them, it may be something like it's very simple. So it's meant for newcomer who want to learn, want to start learning knockout. So we are going a simple single page application, and actually we are doing the coding in the JS fiddle, and I am including the knockout JS extension here. And
We are not loading other libraries like not every library like jQuery or something like that. We just loading Knockout.js.
Okay, so
First,
you guys using Fiddle, but if I want to start working on Knockout.js, so what should I download and how?
the basic requirement is you just to download the Knockout library. We don't need to download any other dependency files. We just download the Knockout and link to the our page, and we can start immediately from scratch. So we are not using any other libraries. So then we'll start with a basic example like how to bind a simple data into our user interface.
so so what I am going to do is what we have seen about view model and all. So what I'm going to do is to create a simple model. So simple view model. So view model is nothing but a simple class, a simple JavaScript class. So in JavaScript, a class is represented. So I call it view model. So inside that I am adding on variable. So uh, so we are just have a variable. I am initializing it with dbg, and my next step is to bring this to a UI element, element. So inside of p I creating a span. So what we are going to and what we are bind with. So first we are in the case of span we are binding that apply the binding first to make this binding happen. So there is a function we say so in the previous slide, the
Like
ko dot
apply
apply
bindings.
bindings.
Yeah.
So for that I am creating. So I am creating an object for this view model. And ko dot play.
So we are simply binding the view model, current view model to the knockout JS. So let's see what happens.
So this is how it works. So we create a variable and we are binding the span field with that first name, and we are doing nothing.
Just bind the view model with the knockout JS. So here it is. The first name is like text. So it is it need not be a text. We can put HTML also in the view model. So currently we are using using a text binding a text field so that it's binded with the text binding. So coming to that, the next function is
Just go ahead with the code and let them and ask the questions on that.
No, I just asked whether KO is the namespace.
Yes, it is. So here, that is normally when we do the HTML and JavaScript code, that is we used to, we are familiar with all those terms, and something that we find here new is new keywords like data bind. It is a keyword, something that is new. Then view model is just a function, so I consider it a function, and apply binding is something new, and some KO. So these are the three things that we are not familiar with, and rest of the things that we are familiar. So just explain those. So is it something special for Knockout.js or something in?
yeah, it's special for knockout JS to understand which context we are to bind. Okay.
It's a part of HTML file that uses directives, and that the ko dot apply bindings. It's a knockout function. It binds the variables with wherever that variable is binded. That is how it initiates the binding.
So it is just because we created an object of that view model, and
Yeah.
that KO apply binding is.
So we are applying bindings, initiating that binding for that view model.
Okay.
So whatever the variable that view model binds to.
Okay. So right now the variable name is first name, and it is bind to a we have value as well as in the span. That is the span folder. Span has a text, property binded with first name.
The first time.
So this is just a basic example. It doesn't give us much sense, but when we go to the next example with the text field, etc., there is more complex example, it will make much sense.
Coming to that, we have another property called observable. As Hanifa earlier, Hanifa said that knockout is mainly used to update UI view model instantly. So one of the key feature is that the knockout can update the UI automatically whenever the view model changes. Okay, so the question is how knockout knows when part of your view model change. So in order to update the value, the knockout definitely knows how when I can update the value to the user interface. That is a main part of it. So for that we should define our UI properties in as observables so that knockout can track and update whenever the view model changes. So let's see how it's work for a real scenario.
So what I am going to do here is, so I am just binded it with a span element. What I am going to do next is I am adding another field and a text box field and binding this variable itself to that test variable. So let's see how it works. So instead of span, I am binding it to a input field. So type is equal to text, and so here is input field, and instead of binding the test field, I am going to bind the value field of the input.
We are normally using a value binding.
So now we have a text box and a span field with that are both binded to the same field. So everyone except that whenever the changes happens here, it will reflect here also, but it is not reflecting right now because we are simply assigning a string value to the variable. We are not doing anything else. So no-code doesn't know if whether the value is changing or not. For that we have to make the variable as an observable so that no-code observes whether it is changing or not and updates the element. So there is a no-code function we see in the previous slide. It's called ko.observable. So I am providing that. So
we are just simply making the first name as observable, so that no-code can track the changes to that particular data.
So it can take a parameters. What the parameter does it is creating a variable as observable, and it is initializing that with whatever we given in the parameters. So what does here is we create a first name as an observable and initializing it with dbg. Okay. So while running this, so whenever, so I am changing this value and that gets reflected in the span field also. So there is something more, we can add more to that. It's called related binding.
Yeah, there are two types of binding.
So here normally when we have to accomplish this function in a native JavaScript, we have to, that is on keypress, we will trigger a function, and inside that function we will take get element by ID or jQuery we use dollar and collect the whatever is there, and
we have to update this.
Second get element by ID, second then span, and we will write code to update.
Yeah, there are.
We can see that this Knockout.js is handling all those parts very easily and quickly with few lines of code, and only problem for us is to learn a few new keywords. And if we learn these new keywords, we will be able to have them.
As you can see, the value.
Yes. To create that view model, we can directly bind the variable with the apply binding. We can.
So what?
Is it necessary to create that view model function, or we can directly bind the bind first name variable?
No, actually it requires a view model. I mean object. It binds an object. Yeah. So for that we have. Yeah.
So does it have any performance impact? Like if we give observable for all the variables, by default, then will it have any performance impact or something?
No, no, not for my knowledge. It's not creating any problem.
Uh, I mean, do you know what exactly happens behind that observable? Like, what exactly?
Actually, I don't know that much. And actually, it's a simple code, and it's the whole size of a knockout is around 60 KB or something like that. So it's not a big deal, I think.
Yeah, is it an open source like?
Yeah, it's open source.
Okay, now that observable is on DBG value. So now the first name, if you change, there's no DBG there. So does that change appear down?
What? Like actually, what?
See that observable is on the DBG word, right?
Yeah. See,
there's no DBG there.
yeah. What is that? We are just initializing that with DBG. So we are so it's a test box and we change that value. That's why it is not shown there.
No, actually,
No.
you are
It's the variable that is observable. That variable got changed because the value in the text box changed. It's called binding. I think what happened here, it's cost there also.
Okay. As you can see, you just type a text in the text field. Okay, the value will be updated on the change event, right? So sometimes we need to update the UI automatically. So we need some more binding apart from using the value binding. So that is called related binding. Related binding is nothing but is related to other binding. So the value update is related to the value binding. So the by default KO triggers the data binding on change event. We can also add some more events, bind events to update the UI elements. Let's see how.
So what happens here is he is telling that, so if I am changing that, I am typing the characters and it is not updating as such, because in the native the no code triggers only on change event. So I am going to so what I am going to do is, so he said a related binding, because what I am going to do is a binding called value update. So that is dependent on this value. It is working only if an element is binded with a value, binded on the value. So here we are binding it with value, and so I am providing one more binding here. It's called value update. So we are providing it. So now see what's the difference is. Now when we type, when I type here, the value itself changes. See the difference? This is what it means by value update.
And the other function is called computed. Computed is nothing but it depends on other observables. If you want, for example, if you want to create for a scenario, thinking like a scenario like we have two text boxes. The one is first name and second is the last name. So we need to create a third variable called full name. So that will display the first name and second name of the particular user. So for that, we are it is the full name is dependent to the first name and last name. So that case, we are using the third variable as computed variable, computer observable. Sorry, some computer observables.
So, so what I am going to do here is nothing but, so we have first name here. So what I am going to do is I am giving another last name to that person and compute the from those two names. It's a concatenation of first name and two names. I am going to compute the full name from the first name and last name. So
And this session is mainly to introduce you the new keywords that you see in Knockout.js and understand what actually is.
so we have a last name and I am initializing it with.
And whenever we are trying to learn these type of new JavaScript framework or something like that, we see a lot of new keywords and we will be willing to start using it just because of the new keywords and we do not know what exactly is happening. So once you understand this, you can start exploring.
Yes. Nothing. It is not. It is initializing with a blank element. It will be showing nothing. That's it.
We are just using this to have a default value.
So I will show you. I will show you if you want. So I have a last name here. So as a front end, I am not providing. I am not providing anything here, and I am binded the second input text box with this last name. Let's see how it works. So we have a last name, and it does not have any value. Correct? So. So now I'm going to compute the third variable that's called full name. So which depends on that first name and last name. So we instead of creating that as an observable, we created it as a computed variable. So computed variable means that it depends on other observables. So its value is dependent on other observables. So the keyword computed is a new function of knockout, and it can take two parameters. First is the function that returns the computed variable. So what we want to return, that's the first parameter. It's a function, and second parameter is the this itself. So this object itself. So first one is a function. So another one is this. This is what I mean. We take two parameters. First is a function and another is this variable itself. And inside that, so I am going to return concatenate the first name and last name and returning it. This is what this function do. So return. So
Here we are putting a params after the first name because when we create observers, knockout JS automatically create its getters and setters for us to get the value. Okay, for that observables. So we are using this dot first name function to get the value, get the first name value.
so instead of binding the first name here, I am binding the full name. So See, we can get the first name as concatenation of both first name and last name. So we have a typo here. So let me remove that. Okay. And what happens is here, whenever the changes happening in any of these dependent variable, it got reflected here also. So this feature of no code is called dependency tracking. That means the no code will know that this variable is dependent to some other variable, and it keep tracks of that variables, and whenever the changes happen to that dependent variables, it got reflected here also. So another feature is the automatic UI refresh also, because the first name changed, that means the full name is also changed. So it automatically reflects the field for full name. This is called automatic UI refresh. So any question here?
So any question? Is everyone getting okay?
Actually, this is a very important part. It's a basic part,
It is just a basic part.
and whoever knows this much, it's almost enough to learn no code. That's the thing.
This is the basic thing of Knockout.js, and it is sufficient enough for you to learn more about that. And all what we did is we have three variables: first name, last name, and full name. First name, one variable we just mentioned it as ko.observable, and second last name also ko.observable. Then I knew another keyword we learned as computer. Then what are the other new things we did? That is value update and data bind. These are the 4 or 5 keywords we learned, and we are able to accomplish something for which we would have written a lot of JavaScript code. So that is the speciality of Knockout.js. So there is no more questions. I think for the experience or experts in Knockout.js, it is.
Sorry for them. I can't say anything else.
Because it is just like our audience, that is most of them are someone who want to learn Knockout.js, and it is just the first step.
And next is the observable array. In the previous examples, we have seen that we are binding data to the UA as a single object. For example, the first name is a single object and last name is another object. So what will happen when we have a situation like we have an array or something like that, or a collection of objects? How we can manage a collection of objects or arrays in UA as UA? So in that case, we are using the function called observable array to manipulate collection of objects, and we can use normal array functions like index of slice, push pop, along with the knockout function. So let's see how we can.
So moving forward, I am going to. So we have a person. So let's say in that sense, we have a person with a name. So I am going to add some friends for that person. So that's what I am going to do. And as I am doing in an object-oriented way, I am implementing that friend as an object, as a class also. So I am creating a new function for friend. So it takes name as its parameter, and so I am creating another. So I am creating an observable here with for friend name. So I am in. So just I am creating a class for a friend. So it's a simple class. It has a single property, that friend name. Okay. So I am creating that friends of this person. So what we call friends. So instead of creating as an observable variable, so a person have many friends. So I am declaring it as an array. For that we are using k dot observable array. So here we are. So we have a friends and we are declare it as friend. So I am initializing two friends for this person. So the way we are doing is, so a new friend. So another friend. So what it, so I'm just doing this. We create an observer array and creating two object of friends and assigning as element of that array. Okay. So I'm going to list these friends. So it's itself, I think it doesn't have any issues here. So now I have to list that these friends. Before going to that, we have to learn something new about some other templating and all. So I'm not going to that in details. There are two types of templates.
And first one is the string-based templates. As we can know, as you know, that the knockout is flexible enough to incorporate third-party libraries into a project. That is permitted to knockout, and we can use third-party templating engine like handlebars, jQuery templates, like that. And we can also use native templating with using knockout with extending knockout functions. For that, there are some of the templating control flow binding like for each, if not with, and we will see how it's work with the situation.
So as I said, there are two types of binding. As I said, there is a two types of binding. One is string based binding. So it's nothing but we are assigning a template and it is rendered somewhere else, like using handlebar.js, jQuery's own templating or else. So now I am going to use the native templating supported by the no-code. There's something done by the control flow bounding that you see for each, something like that. So let's see how it works. So I'm going to list that friends here. So we have going to so I'm so here I am binding not a class. I am going to bind for each of this. So for each friends, I am going to iterate this UI element. So here the syntax is for each.
For each binding is mainly used to iterate duplicates a part of market as the array values.
So what I am going to write inside these UI elements, it going to be repeated for every element in that array. This is what it happens. So I'm going to bind an li here and a span, and I'm going to bind text field to this. I'm going to, for each friends, and there is a friend name for every friend. I'm going to bind the friend name here. So let's see how it works. I'm not sure about that. So here it comes. So we are assigning two friends for that person, and I am going to just assigning on alignment. It is going to be added iteratively. So let's see some of array functions also. So I am going to show the count of friends here. So inside that, and I am going to data bind it with. So what case is this? We are going to bind it with friends dot length. So you can get the count also here. Okay. Yes. I think some of them having some doubts. So some of them as why I am going to put that parenthesis in there, and they I am not doing that parenthesis in for each. That's what your question is. But where is friend? That's a variable here. It's a observable array here in the view model itself.
We are iterating the friends array.
So here you can see the friends.
What's that?
Something like XML data or
That can be done also. So that need to be included another plugin. So
so whatever we get, if we keep it in an array
yeah.
and keep the array as observable, then we can use many of those functions and directly get its data, right?
Yeah.
For example, you
So I am creating the friends array itself.
here you created the friends array itself.
So
Is that length is JavaScript length or no code?
actually it can be the both. I think the no code also provide the length as an array.
Is there any other function?
Yes, we can add, remove. We will see something. So you see, these are some of the functions in for arrays in the no code. So
Length
what?
is not here.
Huh?
Length is not here. Thank you.
Yeah, that's what your question is.
That made it confusing.
So let's see. I'm not finishing with that. So
You will be explaining all those things, right?
no, yeah, I'm not explaining all those things. I am explaining some of those. Actually, I am right now. I am going to do is we have a friends. Now we have to add another. So okay. So what I am going to do is
So before going there, they will have a lot of questions. If there is no questions, it means that you understood it completely.
is there any question? I am not getting any question from that side. Do you understand what I am saying? So is it difficult? So where? The function dot new friend. It's a comma. It's adding new element. Yeah. So what it happens? Actually, it works. Actually, there's no way to create an array itself in no code that way. So yeah. So how you want to do that images? I don't understand.
Instead of the executive, there I'm going to put file of
You can. I am not sure about that. You can give the path of that image, and we can bind it in the HTML binding. That way, you can show that as image. No, no.
It is just like any HTML element. Yeah, we can use and manipulate its properties.
Yes. So you can create an HTML, IMG, SRC, whatever HTML string there, and put it in the HTML, bind it with an HTML. It goes displayed here. So, yeah. So any more questions? Can I continue with that? Is it okay?
So let me ask you a few questions. So we just created a function friend. It is you consider it as an object, right? Okay, that's we learned about that in the first object or in the JavaScript session. Okay. So we created a variable friend name which is considered as observable, and we had a default value as name.
Creating an object, we are including
Okay.
purpose I am
Using that name. Okay, and then this dot friends is equal to ko dot observable array, and you are creating new object of that friend. And if you are not giving that parameter inside, it will be shown as name. That is and assigning the value for that new friend dbg USA and comma new friend and another object with blank. So ko dot observable name. Name is a variable that got passed. Okay. 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 Yeah, it's a function parameter, and that is why we are having the dbg USA when we created it. Okay. Then we element that is the UL is the then we used using it directly to the value or anything like that. We were using a new keyword which is for each, and whenever we use a data bind for a UI element with for each, and then we are mentioning LA inside it. Whatever is mentioned inside that, it will get repeated. So instead of using UI LI, can we have a div outside div and close that div, and inside that we are having a div, whether it will get repeated? Whatever is inside that container. Okay. So it is not because just it is a UALI. Any it gets replicated. You just type in something.
I don't know. With an LA inside an UI.
Yeah, it will definitely work. Inside LA. Inside the LA.
It's not run by.
Yeah.
Okay.
It will come.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So can I continue with this? So can I? So can I continue with this?
Yes, sure.
Okay. So now I am going to add a new friend for this person. So especially I am not initializing it. It will be dynamically adding a new friend. Okay.
That will make more sense.
So I am creating a button. So I am creating a button art front. So, instead of binding, I am going to bind the click event of that binding button. So, so, that get me a function that I am going to bind the click event of the button to a function. So, so I am creating the functions here. This dot.
Here the key event is the button is binded to a function, right? In the previous section, the button is binded to a observer variable. So the difference, the feature is that we can bind any value, any value like literals, constants, any valid expression as values as binding. Here the click binding
So,
is refers to a function at front.
this dot friends dot push. So it's an object for front. Say in front.
We are pushing the value to the fronts array.
So it's getting slow here.
Yeah, it's very slow.
It's-
Okay.
Okay, so actually what we did is we are pushing a value to that array.
Yeah, the
that
preference.
we created.
Yeah.
Previously we had a static array with DBG USA and DBG UK.
Yeah.
And right now we are pushing it.
When we
The slow is because of it is collaborating with going live. That's why. So this is what it happens. So now everyone get a doubt that whenever a new friend is added, the whole data is getting repeated over. So what actually no code does is it is not repeating the iterating the array on side. It's just add a new element. So to see that I am going to add the time where that element is processed. Let's see. Here I am saying first. So here I am going to add the basic JavaScript function that creates that to show the data. It's nothing part of it, no code. It's a simple JavaScript. So no. So what I am going to tell here is we can add the basic JavaScript functions or expression and bind it in Knockout also. So yeah, so whatever we are going to, we learned about how to create a view model, how to create an observable variable, how to create an array and collection of data, how we can add a new data here to that.
And how you can
So,
iterate
so
over
that's
that.
loaded right now. So let's say the both fronts are we had time when the UAE is processed and it goes at different time. So it means that it is not iterating once the whole variable once again. It's just add the new element to that.
Element, end of the array.
That's what I am going to. Yeah.
Yeah.
We are not reloading the UA element itself also, just adding the new element. Got it? So when whatever you are new thing, it's going a new time. So here I am hard coded the friend's name here. So now I'm going to have a dynamic value for that friend name. Okay. So for that I am going to add a input type. So I'm
Apart from text binding, we have lots of other binding also supported by Knockout, like HTML binding, CSS binding, style binding, and there are a lot of bindings are there, and we just come across a few bindings supported by Knockout.js. All the time we are using text binding for displaying values. So we can also display values as HTML also. So there are a lot of other binding.
so hope this works. So
Sorry?
new front. Yeah, that's the basic setters here. That I am told in the computed function itself.
Yeah, it's a getter function to get the value. Yeah.
Yes. So now we can just simply type in some data and we can add that front. See. So I just created a new variable new front. I am making it as observable. Just simply passing that variable to whenever we click new front. That new friend is passed.
Yeah.
We push. That new friend is pushed to that array. Is it clear? So, so,
How do we edit an existing value in an array? Is it
So-
through index?
no, it's a, we can edit itself as it's observable. We can bind it with, so inside the element, instead of binding to a span element, we can bind to an input text box. We can edit there also. It's an observable array. Actually, that's why the changes happening here is limited also. So here, so your question is how to make this friend name editable. That's your question. Right. Where, which one, which one? Yeah. So we can, so we want to add a button here. On clicking that, we have to change that. So it's possible because it's not even, so you will see remove function working here. So that time you will get more understanding. If that you will not get it that time, I will explain you too. Okay. So is it clear now?
Here we are simply putting the values to the existing friends array. Oh, yeah.
Okay. Just go back to that code. So here we didn't do add friend. It will get pushed to the array. That's the only thing that we did, and everything else knockout.js will take care of, right?
So I'm going to remove the friend now. So yeah.
Is there a function for that?
Yes. So
We can use index of function. That way, there we can.
so we can get. Oh, you can down there. Okay. So you can get the index of that element and get it that instead of removing this, you can remove that particular element. Yeah.
Can you explain the code part in terms of the MVVM architecture? That is, which part is acting as a model and which part is acting as a view?
Actually, the function you see that view model, that itself the view model, and we doesn't have a model right now because we are not going to send the data or getting data from the server itself, and the UI is the actual called the view here.
Which part is acting as a view?
The UI, I mean the HTML itself.
In the code?
So here, this is the view, actual view that user get. This type of things, the HTML markup link. That's the view, and this is called the view model, which has all the functions, the variables, which are required for the business logic. That's the view model.
Okay. What view model is doing is getting the change from the model.
Yeah.
Update the view.
Yeah, it is getting the changes from the view, from the model, and updating it to the view.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
So it is updating in the UI.
Yeah.
Okay, and so where is the model part here?
So actual model part comes behind the skins. So it's something like an API call. So API function is returning some value. We are getting updated here. That part of data is called. So we will save this, save all the things in the end. That time we are sending to a server. So that is called view. So that part is called model. So.
What I
So
what I
I
thought
think
is
it's want to be
this
clear.
first name, last
Yes.
name, etc. the part of the model. So manipulating the first name and last name to get a full name. So
So
that is the logical part.
let's say it's simple. We have a first name and last name.
Mhm.
So we are populating this first name and last name from some other, like say an API call. We are clicking an button, it goes to an API call and getting back the first name and last name. Or if you there is a button load friends. So, and when we click that, it goes to a server and returning back the sum of the friends that user have. So that response what we are getting from maybe a JSON array or a XML, that is called what model here in the JavaScript language.
Even without a server part, any application can be categorized as a view model, and
Yes.
yes, in this case, the first name, last name, there is the data part here.
Yeah.
Is
So whatever the data part here is, we are initializing with some strings like dbg, limited, and etc. So instead of initializing here, if I am going to put it in a JSON and loading directly from the server, that JSON string itself is called the model for that. It's clear now?
He was about to explain something, right?
If you have any other thoughts, you can say that also.
So you are going to explain it, right? That it also acts as a model. Yes.
there is a logical part in the view model.
Yes.
So
Also business logic.
yeah. So that is the model. I'm asking about that.
He was trying to say that there is you are having the first name and last name is getting concatenated. That
Yes.
is the business
Logic here. In this application, that is the logical part.
That is the business logic, and we can consider it as a
Model.
No, I mean, to be frank, that's not considered as a model. That's a view model, and the basic what model means is it's simply data.
That is normally we used to say that anything that is that handles with the business logic, we consider it as a model.
Yes.
Yeah, it is up to the developer or simplicity you write
That's
for understanding
I think you are comparing it with the model we controller of what we call coding structures standard out.
Difference between MVC and MVVM, the difference comes in the controller and view model.
model.
So other things are same.
Yes.
Here view model acts as the controller part.
Yes.
So other parts also should be there. So I think the model part is the business logic that is in here. The first name, last name.
in this section there are some
Yes.
model also came in between the
Yes.
view model. That
Yes.
is why
The interaction between the model and the view is handled by the view model.
Yes.
That's already done. While UI is changing, the view model takes the changed data and updating the model, and the URI is populating.
Yes.
So model part also is here.
So, okay, thank you. Yes.
Yeah, so my question is, once your data comes from your server
Yes.
as a JSON, and you get the values of the JSON, let's say first name equal to XYZ,
Yes.
how do you instruct Knockout to go and update first name?
So actually, that's a good question, and there is a plugin called Knockout.mapping. So that's a plugin available for Knockout. It's just convert whatever the object we get, the JSON object or XML object, it just convert it to a view model. That's a plugin available in Knockout.
Okay, and also we are getting late, so that is we will be next two things that we are about to do is one is to delete.
You want to delete, so add a checkbox here, so get it marked, get it styled, and
Okay, okay, then please carry on with that. Okay.
see, is it boring anyhow?
because we were taking slow just because we want everyone to follow. It is not like that is we are having a session and everyone came and just listen to it and go back. That is you should be able to take
Is
something.
anyone
at
get
least.
bored here? I
So,
mean,
if you followed
just
up
not
to this
following
point,
me.
that is you can go back and learn remaining by yourself. Okay. So if you are just completing the session and you are not getting anything, it doesn't add any value for you for spending time at DBG. Okay.
Is it okay? So, so now I am holding the slides. I'm going to straight with the coding also. So, so I am what I'm going to do is delete the added fronts. Yeah. So, so that I'm adding
Now
a
we are
button.
going to delete a particular row from there, right? So for that, you just create a button called remove front. And this is binded to click bind. Remove front.
So, so now I am going to is a remove front is a so I am going to add this remove front inside the front. So just dot remove front. And inside that, so we're getting the view model dot friends dot remove
And this points to the current row.
so
Now I think you can remove that timestamp from that. It will make it clear.
Yeah, delete.
so to run again that not. So now we can add friends, remove them, add as many as of one, remove element and like that. So here instead of remove we can click create a function for edit and
edit and
edit that.
out. The remove button is concentrated on the current row, and
So this is a part of event binding where we password click event. There are some other events also. Now I am going to some other binding like there are other binding like CSS binding. There are other there are other bindings like CSS binding, style binding, etc. I am going to show a style binding here for quickly. So for that I am marking some friends. So I am going to mark some friends and display the marked friends in green and unmarked friends in red. This is what motive is to. Okay. So I am creating. And to mark that, I am creating a checkbox here. So, so here I am binding the checked property of the checkbox, not the value field or something. It's the checked property of checkbox. And I marked it with is hmm? So as it is initialized with true, that's why it comes with mark. So and so it's for the style binding I am binding the li itself. I'm going to bind style property. So now we are going to check if it's marked, then I am providing it with a color, and if it's not marked, I am now providing with another color. That's what I'm going to do.
The style binding is actually a conditional binding, whether we can do or not. If it is marked, the color should be in green, and if it is not checked, the color should be in red.
ഇല്ല ഞാൻ കുറെ ലിമിറ്റ് ചെയ്യാം. Okay. Extensions പറയുന്നു. Extensions. കോമയാണോ അതോ ഇതാണോ? കോളും തന്നെയല്ലോ, കോമയല്ലല്ലോ. It's not loading, that's why.
Okay, that should be fine. You can just explain that is what it will happen.
So it's nothing like it will be shown as red and I'm concluding my session. So it's nothing. We have to finally we are editing with this. We have to save this session. For that we have a function called ko.toJSON. So we can create a button and bind that click event to a function, say save data, and inside that save data function we are just providing so some string variable is assigned to ko.toJSON. So ko.toJSON, and so it will get the whole of our view model to access JSON strings. Now we can pass it to a server using any of Ajax method like jQuery's Ajax or even simple HTTP request.
Yeah, because different types of binding, and there can be different types of binding, and so rest of the things that is people can go and run by themselves. So if you can show that JSON thing.
So let have it. So these are other types of binding available.
Yeah. This as we said that apart from text binding, we can also have many other bindings like visible binding. It's a conditional whether the particular element is visible or not, and a text element, and we already know that what is the use of text binding, and we can I said earlier that we can also rather than binding the text, we can also bind UA element to a JSON HTML markup, and CSS binding is like conditional binding, whether we can add or remove a particular class from condition, and style binding is also a conditional binding, whether we can add or remove particular style property into the particular UA element, and checked binding is for checkboxes, and option binding for drop down list, and selected options for multi drop down, and hash focus is a other conditional binding that we have to focus a particular UA element or not, and you have to try some of these bindings. And now we are going to get the current view model data and send to a server using with other third-party plugin, or we can send to the server as a native using the native JavaScript function.
So and in the meantime, let's do a recap. Go to the first slide and. So in the slide itself.
So far we are familiar with the click binding. The button has click binding. Apart from click binding, we have other event binding like event binding, submit binding for usually it come along with form elements, and enable disable. It's also a conditional element, a conditional binding, and we have a value binding for text boxes also, and we are started from here.
So when we started, that is, and seeing the data bind keyword for the first time, it was something like we are seeing an alien. Right now, when we see the data bind in a code, that is, we can understand how this data is getting binded to someone else, and also apply binding also. That is, we were learning it for new, and right now we know that what the apply binding is for. Then what are the other keywords that we learn? Just one by one, you can share some of them.
Observable. Observable array. Apply bindings. Then value something. Value.
Value binding, text binding, HTML.
CSS. Style binding.
So all these different types of bindings is possible, and also that is they were talking about dependency tracking, right? So what did you get by dependency tracking? What is a dependency tracking? So dependency tracking was like we had some variables and made it observable, and some other variables is using that it will automatically track the changes in other one. For example, if we have a mark 1, mark 2, mark 3 variable assigned to a total, so whenever, and a total is equal to mark 1 plus mark 2 plus mark 3. So what happened is that whenever any of these mark changes, total automatically changes. And we have another variable which is average, which is dependent on this total. Average is equal to total by that is count of that. And whenever a mark changes, all these dependencies are tracked. That is which all variables are dependent on this primary variable or the first variable mark 1, all these get updated automatically. And that was one feature that we learned, dependency tracking. And then we learned about automatic UA refresh. That is, we do not have to refresh the UA. And specifically we saw that it is not the that is initially we were thinking that the whole array is getting replaced, but it is even not like that. It is much quicker. Only that element get replaced, and if you add a new element to that array, only that get pushed to the UA. Then they were talking about, that is, we were doing the value binding, and different other types of binding is also possible, and you can go back and learn and start implementing it, because you can start playing with Knockout.js. Normally, why this type of session is like, normally whenever we hear a lot of things, Knockout.js, we think that it is something we cannot understand. We normally follow the native JavaScript, or we start using jQuery, etc. But these type of things, we feel that it is different. We are able to learn some different programming language, but it is not like that. We just need to understand some new keywords and just play around with that, and we should be able to understand it easily. And the same way you can learn AngularJS or any other frameworks. Ember is also like that. So it will have a different type of keywords, and bindings happen. If binding happens in other Angular, it may be using some different methods, but the output will be the same.
In a separate page and include it to the bottom of the page.
That is, whatever you follow in your current
It's advised
application
to
development,
keep that all the script on the bottom of the page, so that it's
yeah, it should be possible.
It's directly connected to the controls. So what if we may have the same control in 2 pages? We can't have a single JS, right? Or is it possible?
whatever actually.
Like you are binding the first name here, and in the JavaScript function you are calling the first name.
Yes.
So what if in 2 of my pages has first name?
Yes.
And I have a single JavaScript function.
Actually, you can have multiple view model in a single page. So if you can create with binding. So if you are binding to a, so what we have here div elements. So it's basically the no-code is used for single page applications. So different pages are seems like it's a, we have a div. Div is corresponding to the first page, and we have another div that corresponds to the second page, something like that. And the other presentation will show how it works. And we can have a view model for every for a simple div itself. So we can a simple view model can be limited to a div, we can say. That way we can manage. Okay, this is what I am going to do that. So I think JS Fiddle server is down. It's not loading. And this is what goes with the style binding. If it's marked, we are providing with green and red. That's where.
Keywords that we learn when we know about style binding, and also
know what is style binding is. Use just style binding. Rest of the things is a condition CSS property, and is marked is another user defined function.
So here we can see that the button is itself disabled. So I am limiting that. So I am saying that this button should be enabled only when the number of characters is greater than 3. So then this is why how it runs. We can have the enable enable binding here, and so once it's greater than 5, it gets enabled automatically. And finally, so this is what I am saying to save the data. And when we save, so this is the function here. We can have a knockout function to JSON. So this is our current view model. So we can get that our view model to a simple JSON string. So let's see how it works. So here we can get it as a single JSON string. We can simply pass to a alerts window and get this updated to the server. Okay. Is it clear? Any more questions?